Sometimes I'm just so grateful for our listeners, you know, like who suggest these deep dives. And this one, this one's about this Paulo Loriano, right?
Right.
And he's a tech guy,
Yeah.
but he also writes like these really insightful blog posts about life.
Hmm.
And get this, he writes them in English and Portuguese.
Wow.
Talk about a global perspective. And what really got me was how he like connects his tech world to these like timeless questions,
Hmm. Hmm.
like about aging and happiness. It's really cool. So yeah, get ready to really like unpack some serious wisdom. We're talking about like
Hmm.
practical takeaways for dealing with all the ups and downs and really just, making the most of this whole life thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting because one of the things that he tackles is this feeling, we all get as we get a little older, time just seems to speed up.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. It's like, those endless childhood summers
Right.
just kind of morph into the blink of an eye by the time you're an adult.
It's so true. Loriano describes it so well, how time can feel like an illusion almost.
And there's actually a cognitive reason for this. Like our brains, they're literally wired to encode new experiences like way more intensely when we're young.
Mm.
It's like everything's in HD for the first time.
Yeah.
But then as we gather more experiences, that recording process, it's not as sharp.
Right.
It's not that time is actually moving faster. It's just that,
We experience it differently. So
yeah.
it's like our brains are like hardwired to make childhood like an epic movie.
Yes.
And then adulthood is like one of those time-lapse videos.
Yeah.
It's so true. It makes you wonder, what can we like do about it?
Well, so Loriano's like, instead of letting time just slip away, he says, shake things up.
Okay.
He's a big advocate for like actively seeking out new experiences. Things that force your brain to like snap out of autopilot
Right.
and actually pay attention.
Okay.
And I don't just mean like extravagant vacations, although
Okay.
those are great too.
Sure.
But it could be simple stuff like trying a new restaurant,
Yeah.
picking up a new hobby, heck, even just taking a different route on your morning walk.
Totally.
Anything that kind of disrupts the routine and creates those new experience moments for your brain.
I love that. It's like giving your brain a jolt,
Yeah.
like a little jump start. It reminds me of what you were saying earlier about, how Loriano connects his tech background to these life lessons. It's like he's saying, don't just upgrade your phone, upgrade your experiences.
Exactly.
I love it.
And he takes this idea of like actively engaging with life a step further
Okay.
when he challenges this traditional definition of success,
Yeah.
the whole climb the ladder, accumulate wealth.
Right.
He even uses this like kind of stark image.
Yeah.
What's the point of being the richest person in the cemetery?
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's this stark reminder that success isn't just about what you achieve, but how you actually live.
It's so easy to get caught up in that rat race, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like striving for all the external validation. So you mentioned Loriano challenges that. How so?
Well, he's arguing that we should be driven by intrinsic motivation,
Okay.
finding fulfillment in the journey itself, not just the destination.
Right. Like
Yeah.
how often are we chasing goals that society is telling us are important without like stopping to think, wait, is this even what I want?
Totally. It's so easy to get caught up in that. But Loriana's story about his friend, it's just like this great reminder to like just pause and ask ourselves,
Yeah.
what really motivates me,
Right.
Is it recognition, status,
Yeah.
money?
Yeah.
Or is it something deeper, like a sense of purpose or connection or creativity? It really is about kind of aligning, your actions with your values, you
Yeah.
know? And sometimes that means like confronting those kind of, lingering regrets.
Oh, for sure.
We all have them.
The what ifs and all that.
Yeah. Those should haves that can like totally keep us stuck.
Totally. Loriano doesn't shy away from those kind of tougher emotions.
Yeah.
Like he even uses his Portuguese word.
Right.
Lamentações.
Lamenta-
Yeah. To describe that feeling of dwelling on past regrets. Have you heard of that word?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that feeling of just being stuck,
Yeah.
replaying those same mistakes in your mind just over and over.
Like a broken record.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it can be, it can be really paralyzing.
For sure. But Loriano, he also offers this like really powerful way to like move through those lamentations and come out stronger, right? He suggests like putting our regrets almost on trial,
Oh, interesting.
like a courtroom drama
Okay.
in our minds.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I like that. So like you're both the prosecutor and the defense attorney.
Right.
You're laying out all the evidence. What happened?
Yeah.
What was your role?
Yeah, right.
But you're doing it from a place of, like, neutrality, not judgment. You ask the tough questions, like, what could I have done differently?
Right.
But also, like, what did I learn?
So it's not about, like, just pretending they didn't happen.
Right.
Or, like, beating ourselves up about it.
Yeah.
It's more about, like, understanding, learning from it.
Totally. Like, can you make peace with some of these things?
Yeah, and then extracting the wisdom
Yeah.
from these past experiences
Yeah.
without letting it define our present or our future.
Right.
Right?
Yes, exactly. And he doesn't just, offer this advice, like, theoretically.
Right.
He talks about his own experiences with regret.
Yeah. Didn't he mention something about, like, a friend from the TV industry?
Yes. So he had this friend, and his friend had poured his heart and soul into this project.
Yeah.
And when it got canceled, it was really tough, like it hit him hard. And even though, he went on to work on other shows, successful shows,
Yeah.
he could never quite shake that feeling of disappointment.
I feel like that's relatable,
Yeah.
Like, sometimes we reach our goals and it's like, it's not how we pictured it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of highlights this important point that Loriano makes.
Okay.
Sometimes the greatest fulfillment comes from the journey itself,
Okay.
not just the destination. It's about, like, the passion,
Right.
the effort, the connections,
It reminds me of something you were talking about earlier, about how Loriano, like, encourages us to savor each moment.
Yes.
Like, yes, have your long-term goals and dreams, but, like, don't forget to appreciate the beauty and the lessons
Yes.
in each step.
Yes. And one of the ways we can do that is by being really present in our relationships.
Okay.
Loriano talks about how as we get older, what we need from our friends, from our partners, it might change.
He specifically mentioned, like, forgiveness becoming more important.
Yes.
What do you think? Why is that?
Well, I think as we mature, we start to realize that no relationship is perfect, We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
We all have flaws.
Right.
And, holding on to grudges, it really only hurts us in the long run.
Right.
Forgiveness of ourselves and of others, it becomes so crucial for, maintaining those, like, really deep and lasting connections.
There's that saying, like, resentment is like drinking poison
Yes.
and waiting for the other person to die.
It's so true.
It's such a powerful image.
It is. And forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook.
Right.
It's about freeing yourself from all that anger
Right.
and resentment. It's a gift, really, that
Yeah.
you give to yourself as much as to the other person.
It's such a good point. Like, it's not weakness. It's
Yeah.
actually, like, self-care.
Mhm.
And, speaking of, like, self-acceptance, I thought it was interesting, Loriano's observation about how men kind of become more appealing with age.
I was wondering if we'd get to that.
Right.
I think it's a bit of a playful observation, obviously,
Okay.
but there's a deeper truth there.
Yeah.
It's not so much about physical appearance. I think it's about that, that confidence and self-acceptance that often just comes with age.
Right. We care less what people think.
Exactly.
More comfortable with ourselves.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly attractive,
Yeah.
regardless of gender.
It's like that inner peace just, like, radiates out
Yeah.
and people are drawn to it.
Precisely. And that kind of brings us back to Loriano's, overarching theme, this idea of, like, making the most of life's journey. It's not just about these external markers of success,
Right.
but about really cultivating this inner sense of fulfillment,
Yeah.
purpose.
Self-love.
Yes.
It strikes me, even when he's, like, really dissecting these big life questions, Loriano never loses sight of, like, how important connection is.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, like, yeah, work on yourself, but don't forget about we in all this.
Absolutely. Like, he talks about how those human bonds, the love of family, of friends, like, they become even more precious as we go through all this, right?
And it's not just about, like, having people around.
Right.
He also points out that, like, the nature of our relationships, like, what we need from them,
Yeah.
it can actually change over time.
For sure.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think, when we're younger, relationships are more about excitement,
Right.
novelty,
Yeah.
shared experiences, fun stuff. But as we mature, the connections that last,
Yeah.
they often involve, like, a much deeper level of understanding,
Right.
forgiveness,
Yeah.
acceptance of, like, those little imperfections we all have.
Right. We've all got a few bumps and bruises at this point, right? It kind of reminds me of what you were talking about earlier about putting our regrets on trial.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that could also apply to, like, conflicts in our relationships?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It totally applies. So instead of, like, getting stuck in blame.
Right. Which is easy to do.
Oh, absolutely. Or resentment when there's conflict, which, again, totally natural.
Totally.
What if we try to, like, take a step back
Okay.
and approach the situation with, like, that same spirit of curiosity,
Okay.
and self-reflection.
So instead of pointing fingers, it's more like, okay, what was my part in this?
Yes.
What can I learn from this?
Exactly.
How can I move forward in a way that helps this relationship?
Yes, and it's about, like, shifting from a blame-centered approach
Okay.
to a growth-centered approach.
I like that.
Which, I mean, easier said than done, obviously. But,
yeah.
like, with practice, it can make a huge difference.
Right. It all comes back to that self-awareness
Yes.
that Laureano's talking about, right?
Right.
Like, the more we understand ourselves,
Yes.
our motivations,
Yeah.
what makes us tick,
Totally.
the better we are at, like, navigating all the ups and downs, the
Yeah.
complexities of relationships.
Could not agree more.
This has been so great. I really enjoyed, like, diving into Paulo Laureano's work with you today. He really has a way of taking these like big, like kind of scary, almost life questions
Yeah.
and making them feel like doable.
Approachable.
Yeah, approachable, relatable even.
Yeah, and hopeful.
Yeah. And that we don't have to figure it all out alone. So to our listeners, if you want to learn more about Paulo Laureano, we'll have links to his blog in the show notes.
Awesome.
You can check it out for yourselves. And let us know what you think. Like, what really resonated with you from today? And what are you going to do today
Yes.
to make your journey a little more fulfilling?
I love that.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, keep diving deep.